What's up, Sunshiners? Some of you know me, some of you don't. My name's Andrew, and this is a little series that I've been wanting to try and do called Between Two Durians. The goal of this project is to just chat with members of the bingo community in a casual interview style to get to know people better and talk about their experiences in all things bingo related and otherwise. Mason graciously volunteered to be my first guest, so without any further ado, let's jump right in. All right, so I'm here with mdmason85, better known as Mason. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. Are you excited to be the first one to partake in this little experiment?
I'm here.
Excellent. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, insofar as how your bingo career has gotten to this point? Where'd you start off?
Yeah, I'll start from the beginning, I guess. I grew up with Nintendo. Um, we got I remember us having the Super Nintendo at the start, and the one game I remember was Baseball Tonight. I was watching. I remember just we would just watch. We could not beat the computer in that game. um, we would just watch my dad try and fail. And it was really funny is I went back and played the game like about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was so easy. I think we just didn't figure out that you had to hold the button down to do a good pitch. So that was the first game I remember playing. My Then we got an N64. We had like a Pikachu limited edition one
Hmm.
that um, unfortunately we sold to get the GameCube, and I'm like, wish we had kept that, but we didn't know any better. But trying to think of what games we played on there. Definitely got into Mario at that point. Mario 64 played that some. Mario Party and Mario Kart were big ones. Um, but then yeah, the GameCube was really what I grew up with. I think I had to have gotten it shortly after it came out because I remember playing um, Luigi's Mansion and Super Mario Sunshine when I would have been about 7 or so, and that would have been in like 2003, 2004 at that point. Um, so pretty much from then on, I have had a GameCube and have on and off played Super Mario Sunshine. I felt like I first really beat the game. It's funny because Super Mario Sunshine is like a single player game, but it is like one of the games I beat with people multiple times. I In sixth grade, me and one of my friends, we would come over and we would just take turns beating levels, and we would do that. And then um, I beat it again. I think when maybe my junior year of high school. I think me and my little brother did it, and then in college, my freshman year of college, I brought the GameCube um, and beat through it again with my friend. And So yeah, that probably would have been it. But from a lot of my uh, friends that I made, specifically in high school, we had a group of friends that we just started playing. Well, we all played Smash Bros. It was Brawl at the time, and so we started playing a lot of that. And at that time, I was told that there was like um, competitive brawl, and that was the first I had heard of like, you know, any sort of competitive gaming or anything like that. Um, and so we kept that up. We got the one that came out for Wii U that came out while I was in high school, and then um, went off to college. And then it was my freshman year of college. I discovered Twitch, and mostly for Melee tournaments. Wanted to watch Melee tournaments live, and this would have been right at the start of 2016. Just one day, I was like, I wonder if anyone plays Super Mario Sunshine on Twitch, and so I found that just found a speedrunning stream. Um, and so that summer of 2016, I started streaming. Um, got myself a capture card on the laptop I use for school, and it was very janky, and I did not know what I was doing. Was not very tech savvy, and for the most part was like not trying to make sure my parents like didn't know I was doing it, even though I was an adult. I didn't want to have to explain to them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's what got me into speedrunning. And I remember like I found out what bingo was like I want to say, probably in like 2017 or so, but there, it was difficult for me to, I feel like, really join in on, um, in the scene, or like, I'd message here and there, but I didn't really like, um, participate in events, mostly just because with my college schedule, I didn't want to, commit to a video game thing
Yeah.
and then have to drop out or have to cancel on friends for, explain to them that I was playing video games. I feel like, the landscape has changed a bit, and I feel like COVID really shifted things. I feel like if I had been in college during or after COVID, then it would have been different. But it worked out the way it did. Um, and so whenever um, the 2019 row control tournament came around, I wanted to do the 2018 2v2 tournament, but I didn't have anyone I could ask to be a partner, and didn't want to put myself out there for that, especially just not knowing what my schedule was going to be like. So I was that was around the time I know I was wanting to get involved with bingo. It just didn't happen. Um, but yeah, 2019 row control, I did. Um, they did something I really wish we had managed to make work, but at the time there was a scrim week, so everyone was required, especially new players, were required to do two practice matches, just so that they could look at your play and seed you. Um, and so yeah, I did two of those. I got absolutely destroyed by Deathline in my first one, and then did pretty well in my other one, but it was against someone. So went in. I was the 20th seed, and in my first game, I did pull an upset over Linky, which felt really good. And like it was, I think I lost. I think then I lost, and then in losers, I had an infamous match where I game overed and then came back and won
Wow.
after 30 minutes in. Um, yeah, the guy I was going against was pretty slow, and it was just difficult, and they were pretty new to bingo, so it was it was a very scuffed match. But yeah, I ended up placing top 16 at my first tournament when I was not seeded to. So um, that was definitely got the excitement there. Um, then I remember not being selected for the Connect Five Invitational, and that was uh, disappointing. I really wanted to be in that one, but yeah, I just kept playing, and I was seeded 13th for the 2020 lockout, which I think was before Invasion. But um, that one I actually placed 17th, but I lost to two people who um, got top six.
I mean, hey.
Yeah, so it was that was a tough draw, but um, yeah, so those were the pre-league tournaments. Invasion qualifiers. Actually lost my first match to Game Stable, but managed to still make it out of. It was group stage into bracket, to qualify. So I managed to qualify, and then I did go 0-2, but I had close ones against some pretty good players. So um, and then yeah, bingo league. Um, gosh, the crazy how long ago it was, but also how long it's been since.
Yeah.
Feels like that, like feels like it just ended, but also I feel like it was it early 2020 that that happened, or maybe it was mid 2020. There's a lot of bingo going on. There's a lot of bingo going on right before COVID. So then whenever COVID happened, like there was this huge surge, and that's why bingo leagues big part of why bingo league season 2 popped off as much as it did is there was so much interest going in that everyone had an excuse to have more available time. And after the first league had been a success, then second season after that it was tough. But yeah, I did the bingo leagues. Didn't do as well as I wanted ever, but I had pretty high expectations for myself, and um, yeah, I did all 5 seasons. I think I became a moderator. I want to say it was after, either during season 3 or after season 3. There were when I first became a moderator, there were 10 of us. Um, of those 10, it's just me and Dex. Um, Tomato has joined since. Jeff has been kind of on and off, but yeah, it's just been attrition of the mod team
Yeah.
since that time. But yeah, I think the end of the league into the post league era is really just like a shift in, you know, obviously in the amount of people. A lot of people have dropped off, but also just the people running the scene. The way the bingo league kind of ended with a whimper, but uh, you know, I think there were so many conflicting ideas trying to make it work at the end of the bingo league that uh, it was probably good to have a clean break. And we tried. I was really hoping the 2024 lockout tournament was going to be a big boost. There seemed to be some interest, and then we only got like 13 signups for that tournament. So I remember being discouraged by that, but then just kind of put it off to the side. I've gone back and forth of whether or not like I want to put it all out for an event. Um, I did the like team competition Olympics, whatever you want to call it, and that that seemed to be pretty successful, and that was a lot of fun. But um, it has been a long road to get where we are
Yeah,
right
I
now.
bet.
Just I mean, like barely any struggling to get enough people to make a tournament, basically for the past few years. So the recent birth of a bloodline and dawn of a dynasty tournaments were really exciting to see. So
Yeah, that's where I came in, is like I started, like I'd been watching for, I say watching, but like I followed the channel on Twitch for like a decade, and like I would just pop in like every now and again. I'd be like, oh, those like Sunshine people are up to something, like let's go see. And I would see it and I'd be like, these people are crazy. Like it was always bingo events though. I was always so impressed by like the production value and stuff. But I didn't actually start like watching consistently until about like 6 months ago, which was I think right around like Birth of a Bloodline had started. And so the whole time I've been here so far is like all of these like really well populated tournaments with a lot of people. So I'm like, oh, this is just what it's always like. But then everybody talks about like the years where it was like totally dead, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like it's always had like a bunch of people, right? Because that's been my whole experience.
yeah, it definitely has its ebbs and flows. I think there's one of the things that the end of the bingo league did. I wish I could go back and redo how it was done. But it's one of those things you know you come off the high of like a really exciting season 2 where 48 people joined. There were every single all 48 people played 11 matches across 8 weeks, followed by three different playoff brackets that were all best of three. Um, 24 people were in those playoff brackets. So you go from that, like how many total matches is that to
Right.
so you're trying to so many of the people who are at the very top, um, they only wanted to be in it for one season or they got burnt out with just how difficult it is to be um, to stay at the top. So there was, kind of a push to make it easy for top players to join. And so it was like, you just kind of it switched and there were two concerns. One was the burnout and the second concern was um people just kind of get stuck in a division because the league was split by divisions. And if you improve enough to be able to compete against better players, do you have to wait until the next bingo league season? So the idea was to fix those two with a ladder system where you could also choose how many matches you played. And so we kind of kept that going, but you know, it ended up being where it just the regular season mattered less and less, which I always like, um, I would love a bracket where like if you do like a round robin, especially, I love for like, everyone to have a chance in playoffs, but um, for like the regular season portion of it to really matter. Like I follow a lot of college basketball, and they have some of the conferences. I think there's like a 14 team conference that has it where like the 1 and 2 seed get buys all the way to semis. So it's like a waterfall type bracket where like you have 11 play 14, winner that plays 10, winner that plays 7, winner that plays 6, winner that plays 3, winner that plays 2. So the 2 gets the bye through all those games. And there's controversy. Some people like a straight bracket, but I love like the regular season to matter so much. So that is one of the things I wish we had kept with the bingo league, but it I think it was going to run its course regardless. So we
Yeah.
did what we could with what we had, and a lot of people had a lot of different ideas, and it just didn't work out. And I think people were pretty done with events for the most part. There's always going to be a few people, myself included, that will just join everything they can, but um, it definitely, I think the break, um, it did a lot of people good, and just doing a few non-lockout and 2v2 events here and there, um, just allowed the people who wanted to play or wanted to play like in a less intense setting to stick around. And then we get an exciting event that all the people who have kind of stuck around but not really wanting to do the big ones, um, they join in, and then that gets a few people who um, haven't been around for a while who just kind of want to you know come back to it or support the tournament, come in, and that gets a lot of excitement going. So yeah, I think bingo's in a good place right now, and excited about running future events, which I don't know if I would have said I was excited about the future of events a year or so ago. So
Yeah. We take those wins, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the question was you asked. I definitely just have just gone off on my own
No, that's
little
okay.
tangents.
It's we're just here to talk, honestly. Like it's no big deal. Um but you did mention like playing the N64 growing up. So did you have siblings you played with too?
Yeah, so I'm the middle child. I got brothers 2 years either side of me.
Mm.
So yeah, I've always had someone pretty close. My little brother's probably the one I played more video games with. We're at least we still have a more similar um, taste in games and interest in games. Um, but yeah, we played all the time. Um, so yeah, I definitely grew up, couch co-op Nintendo games. Um, it's really funny. I've only recently as an adult gotten into a lot of the big Nintendo series. Like I the first Pokemon game I beat was when I was in high school. Same with the first Zelda game I beat. Um, and uh, yeah, like those. I remember watching my brothers play most of the Zelda and Pokemon games. But honestly, I'm like, man, what did I play as a kid? I guess I just really played Mario.
Just Sunshine, apparently.
Yeah, and Smash Bros. I do think Super Mario Sunshine and Melee are far and away my two most played games. I wish I had, the playtime stats on them, but I'm sure it's several thousand hours for both of those games.
Yeah, gotta be.
Nothing else comes close.
Yeah. Um, and then do you have one kid or do you have multiple kids?
Two.
Two. Okay. So then, um, do you get to play with them at all? And like, is gaming, like, is that from when you look back to like with your dad? Is it, how does that compare now?
So it's funny. So my dad would sometimes play. Like he played, the Baseball Tonight game when we first got it, but we would sometimes for like his birthday, would buy him a gift with his own money. Um, but we would get so occasionally we'd get him like a, a video game that seemed to be in his interest. Like we got a motorcycle racing game. Um, Twice. We got two different motorcycle racing games, and he played them like twice with us.
Aw.
So my dad, he would play with us, but it wouldn't. He didn't enjoy it really. It definitely wasn't his
Hmm.
cup of tea. But he'll sometimes play. Actually, I will. They um I got a Switch too. My dad recently retired, and so I guess they're discovering new interests, and one of those is playing Switch 2. So they skipped the Switch and every other console, they just bought for us. I think my mom's favorite game of all time is Link to the Past. So
Wow.
she got the Switch 2 and beat Link to the Past again. Um, but we've been playing some Mario Kart online with them, which has been really fun. We actually we had like a freeze where the roads were all icy and everything shuts down in Texas when there's ice on the roads, and we had a Mario Party game that was four generations. My grandma, my mom, me, and my kid. That was fun. I played with my grandma, and we almost had him,
Oh yeah, I remember you
but
talking about that at one point.
yeah. So it's really funny. Like I've definitely been the one that like I'm I'm far and away the most, I think, into games, specifically Nintendo games. Um, and so, growing up, like my parents had a very strict, like 1 hour of video games on the weekends per day and none on school nights.
Mm,
So, um, you know, my parents just weren't interested in playing games. So my kids will definitely have a different experience growing up with like, oh, it's like, do we play what you want to play? Do we play what I want to play?
right.
Um, but no, so my oldest, he's uh, my stepson. He was 3 when I started dating his mom, and like so one of the first ways we really connected was playing some Switch games together. So that kind of always been a part of our relationship, which has been really cool. One of the first things I did is I would play. I had Super Mario Sunshine on, and he wanted to play with me, so I was like, "All right, you take this controller and you're Shadow Mario,"
Oh,
and
oh, I like that.
he enjoyed that, but it didn't work on him for very long. He's like, "Why am I not jumping when I hit the button?" But um,
That's devious, honestly.
yeah, you got to figure out the ways because I was like, I have to try to get him. At the time, I didn't have many games that were like super kid easy for kids to play. Like, it's like if you play Smash Bros, you're going to just run off the stage and die.
Yeah.
So it's have to find a way for that. At now, there's like we've gotten several games that like the Kirby and Yoshi games on the Switch, where P2 can basically just do whatever and they'll eventually be warped back to player one.
Yeah, those are great.
And so, but yeah, so at the time I didn't have those, but yeah, I think the first game we played together, really like got into together, was Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Um, I think it came out like, when did it come out? Um, it came out right around my birthday, so I was like, oh, let's get the game for my birthday and we can play it together. So um, that was, I think, one of, the way we play games together has always been a lot of fun, and my wife doesn't care too much for games, so usually it's just me and him playing. And she'll play with us sometimes. I've roped her in for um, some Mario Tennis recently and some Mario Party, and she doesn't mind Mario Kart. That's that's about it of the games she doesn't mind. um, but yeah, no, it's been fun. He's been getting really into Pokemon lately, so it's been getting me more into Pokemon. I got him Pokemon Sword for his birthday, which was honestly most of the games I like. I heavily vet, or like I'll definitely steer him in a way that I think he'll enjoy the most, and I think will have the most lasting value. So like I didn't get him Pokemon Legends ZA because I was like, I don't know if like you've only played like three Pokemon games. Do I want to spend $70 on one, or do I want to try to find an old Switch one? And
Yeah.
gonna, I was like, honestly, I gave him the option basically of if he wanted Pokemon Sword or Pokemon Pokopia, and he chose Pokemon Sword, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I did not influence this at all. I will let you get that. And so that was um it's fun to see him like really come into his own with his game choices. I honestly was like, man, I haven't heard great things about that game. Do I want to? Sure, I want to get that, but he really wanted. And I was like, all right, this is your decision. So you are old enough now to like have input, and know
Yeah.
what you want, which is crazy.
How old is he now?
He just turned 9, so
Okay.
um yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you gotta have some autonomy eventually. I think my parents just let me loose with games. I mean, it was strictly Nintendo because that was the family friendly, right? So no Xbox or
Yeah.
PlayStation. But some of those games, like I was way too young to comprehend. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? And it's funny because you managed to like make up things like a kid's imagination. It's so different when you're an adult and like you see the game and you can just kind of see the game for the game, but when you're a kid it's like it really is like this whole other world and this
Yeah,
experience.
I've got a few of the like basically mobile game level quality games on my Switch, just because they were like on sale for $1 and I bought them with gold points. And some of those games have been his most played games.
Yeah.
There's one that was just like you just jump left or right, and like it's like basically doodle jump, and he's put like 100 hours on that game.
And then you're looking at it, you're thinking like, we
And he
started
just
with Pong and Space Invaders and like we've come full circle.
yeah, just like, what game do you want to play? And it's like, I want to play Jumping Joe, and I'm like, why? Well, you have access to like Mario Odyssey and the great Nintendo library, and
Yeah.
I tried to get him into Mario Galaxy whenever they first announced the movie, um, and it just did not. I think he got stuck on one level and hasn't touched it since.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so with my youngest, he's almost 2, and so I was telling my oldest, I was like, we'll be able to tell him he's Shadow Mario soon.
Oh,
At the moment, we just give him a broken controller and like he, you know,
yeah,
has no
that's
idea what's
enough.
going on.
Yeah.
But it'll soon we'll be able to like actually play some of those games. I'm looking forward to that when we have an even four for
Yeah. That's
Mario Party or stuff
yeah.
like that. So
That's when it's
that'll be
time to
fun.
be
I'm
like,
looking forward to.
"Hey mom, like we need 4."
Yeah, no, yeah. Um, we get a variety of games, just the two of us, or even 3 or 4 player games. But yeah, it's at the moment we've been playing a lot of Mario Tennis, and it's like, all right, is it me with the worst computer against y'all two, or is it one of y'all with the best computer against?
That's how you do it though. That's how you successfully, handicap.
Yep. And soon that'll be the baby. It'll be probably me and him for
Yeah.
taking on the other two.
Yeah, I was playing a game with friends that was I can't remember what it was. It's that one where you like have to describe a word and or you have to, I don't know, tell people like synonyms for the words, and they're supposed to figure out like what words on the board it relates to. I can't really remember. It was pretty fun,
Code
but
names,
maybe.
the one where you have like the 5x5 grid and the words on there, and you have to say
Yeah.
one word.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, and you're like on two different teams and like colors, and yeah, I was playing that a few months ago with a bunch of friends, and 2 of them were like basically fall down drunk, and so each game was like, okay, well, like they have to be on separate teams because if one person gets stuck with both of them, like that's just not fair. So
I got it.
yes, code names. Yep. Yeah, it was kind of fun. I hadn't played that before. But
I've
yeah,
also
I
got
don't recommend playing that with like really aggressive
I
drunk
got code
people.
names do it too. I love along with video games, my main one of my main hobbies is board games.
Oh, nice.
I've got a whole cabinet full of them right here.
Do you have Settlers of Catan in there?
Yes,
Okay.
I've got Catan. I've got I've been to some Catan tournaments, so I've got a lot of stuff from those.
Oh, nice.
and
Catan's one of like
whatnot.
the only board games I've ever actually like played with like multiple people, but I like it.
Yeah, I went to actually qualified for U.S. national championships for Catan a few
That's
years ago.
crazy.
Actually, I qualified right before COVID, and so I like qualified, and then they didn't do nationals for like a year and a half, and it was like a you know kind of a janky setup of like, oh, it has to keep moving around and whatnot. But
How does competitive level Catan even work? Like, is it
you
just
play like 3 games and top whatever advance. So if like the nationals I went to, well, it was because of the COVID stuff. It only had like 55 people, but it was after 3 games, top 16 moved on to semis. You play 1 game, move to finals, 1 game, and you win. So, um, yeah, I've been to a few smaller tournaments. Those are a lot of fun, but um, I'd like to. I'm kind of on the back burner right now, but I would like to design my own like strategy board game.
hmm,
That is something I'd you know like to make happen.
yeah, that'd be cool.
Hopefully, try and get something like that published one day.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
I don't have
got a lot of ideas and kind of got them in the works, but it's a lot. It's tricky to find the balance of you know what is consistent, unique, fun, new. So
yeah, and plus it takes a lot of time to work on something like that, and you have work obligations, family obligations, and bingo obligations, so it's
yeah, it's definitely I get in a mode where I'm work on it a lot for a short period of time, and then I just need to take a break on it, kind of come back to it later with fresh eyes. But that's one of those like things that's always on the to do list of like, I need to figure out what to do next with it. So
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, I mean, Super Mario Sunshine Bingo is basically a board game.
It is, yeah.
I've thought about like if I could design a board game with, obviously there's a lot of strategy and like guessing what your opponent will do, but there's a level of like skill with the game, and I'm wondering, I'm like, man, how could I do something like that where it's like skill based aspect of the game that's not like strategy. It's just you do a little mini game for
Right.
something.
Almost like
I
Mario
don't know how to
Party
make it
or
work, but
something.
yeah, yeah, like a could you turn Mario Party into an actual board
Yeah.
game type of thing, or just take the concept of like mini games and how would that work? I don't know, but
Yeah, I feel like that's one of my personal like not that I don't dislike board games, but yeah, like when most of the time it just revolves around just rolling of the dice. Like I can't tell you how many times I've played Catan with people and it's just like I'm just sitting there like okay, like I just haven't gotten a resource in like 50 rolls, but I'm glad everyone else is having fun. So, yeah, I I feel like that would be cool having like, multiple objectives or something to
yeah. Yeah, I would like to do something. Honestly, like it's very similar to bingo, where it's like the it's head to head, where can you like read what your opponent's gonna do? Like you know there is a good option, an okay option, and a bad option. But if you choose the obvious option and then your opponent does the same thing, like knows that you're gonna choose that, they can shut it down. Similar to, again, like a sunshine bingo thing where, like, if your opponent's doing the obvious option, then you know exactly how you can play to work around that.
yeah, almost like tic-tac-toe or Connect Four or something, where it's like you got to be looking ahead and considering a lot of different alternative routes and outcomes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool. How did you and your wife meet?
So we met through a church small group. Um, yeah, I was just when I moved to this area after graduating, didn't have any connections, so I was just kind of looking around for churches and found one that had a good, group for young adults, which is always the hardest hardest group to have people in church for. So yeah, we met. Um, Through that, we were friends for about um, 9 months before we started dating. She was very, being a single mom, she was very hesitant to jump into anything. But
Yeah.
um, I asked her out like 4 times, and she said no every time. So
Persistence paid off in this case.
yeah, it was. She liked me, and she still said no. So I was like,
Yeah.
a few times, but yeah, no, it was. It's a. I enjoy the way our story has worked out and the way our family is now. It's one of those things. I'm sure I would have done it differently, but I wouldn't want to change a single thing about where we're at. So
Yeah. So that was like 6 years ago.
we're coming up on 5 years of being married. So yeah, we got married actually on the 1 year anniversary of us dating.
Oh,
um, we, we did move fast, but yeah, so almost 6 years of dating, almost 5 years of marriage. So
so she was
hopefully
like,
we'll do something fun for our 5 year.
I'm not gonna rush into anything. But then once she knew it was right, she was like, okay, like let's lock this shit down. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and especially with having the kid, is like you don't want to provide that stability and consistency.
yeah,
So that was a big part of that, and it's definitely worked out. She's told me that she was expecting marriage to be really difficult. Um, she was just expecting to have to be suffering and constantly, forgiving and putting her needs on the back burner. And She's just like, it hasn't been that at all.
It's sad because a lot of marriages are like that. I don't
Yeah,
speak from firsthand experience, but I speak from secondhand experience. But
yeah,
yeah,
it is. I went in very optimistic, and still my expectations have been blown away. So
yeah, that's so
yeah,
awesome.
it's yeah, that's definitely um, a really great thing. Um, yeah, I wish I had used my time better when I was single. I wish I had put more time into my hobbies. I wasted a lot of time, but yeah, at the same time, it's like, would I have ever had the discipline to like be productive with my time if I hadn't,
Yeah.
had all this responsibility? So now it's like streaming is very pretty rare, but it's also very intentional. So
Yeah, you got to really divide up your time in a meaningful way.
yeah, but this is my birthday weekend. My birthday's on Monday, so I can get away
Oh,
with all the gaming I want.
well, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
How old are you turning?
29.
Right. One of the on the older spectrum of the bingoers.
Yes, but definitely on the young spectrum of people with 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
um, I coached. He did when he did basketball. My dad coached my rec league basketball from literally from first grade or from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. We had a league that did it all the way. He was my coach, all that. So that was always something I wanted to do
Mhm.
with my kids. So I coached his basketball team. He liked it, but he's just not super into sports in general. But um, yeah, coaching kindergarten and first grade boys basketball was tough. And then like I'm like, shoot, I need help, but I didn't know any of the parents. They were all like 40 years old, and I was like, I don't it's like I don't know how to talk to you like a peer.
Right.
So
Yeah, there's something about like being right around your 30s that I feel like you still feel maybe like you're, a, a young adult, but like I don't know, you look around and like I I I know people, my age with kids and stuff, and I'm like, "Wait, but like that's something like grown-ups do." Like
yeah, it
it's,
is it is funny when you ever see like those. I feel like it was popular, really popular, like a few years ago. But it was like, oh, what marriage is like in your 20s versus what marriage is like in your 30s, and we've seen a lot of those, and it's just kids versus no kids. That's all.
yeah.
Like there's so many of most of the things in the 30s we can really relate to because it's all about kids.
Yeah.
So it is really funny just how much that changes things.
And how does the older one feel about Sunshine and Bingo in particular, maybe someday?
We'll see about. He definitely is into games, and there's been a few like almost like mini games and a few things where it's been like, oh look, I did a speed run or something like
Mm.
that. If there's a little like, some games will have a little racing mini game or whatnot. Um, but yeah, we'll see. Um, so my wife has a brother who is 12 at the moment, and so I've actually done. He did like a speed run of one of the games I have. So he's honestly, I feel like more likely to get into speed running. Um,
So even though it's, not your blood relative, it somehow runs in the family, the extended
yeah,
family.
yeah. So
Well, that's cool. I did want to ask a couple of like shorter questions, such as do you have any favorites in terms of bingo, in terms of players, favorite tournaments? I think we kind of covered that. Favorite formats, anything like that stands out?
yeah, I think my favorite tournament would have been Bingo League season 2. Liked the um I put together my own like ranking sheet. I wasn't a moderator at the time, but I put together my own like ranking sheet with all this additional information. Let me see if I can pull it up and just some of the um, I'm a big numbers guy, so I love just seeing. I grew up reading the sports page. Whenever I was like 4 or 5 years old, I would always just go to the baseball standings and statistics and look at all the numbers. And I used to love that. Yeah, I looked at I gave ranking, player record, uh, head to head of any ties, strength of victory, strength of schedule remaining, um, home, away, neutral records, records in each of the formats, and the current winning or losing streak they were on,
Hmm.
and whether or not they had clinched playoffs, a bye, a double bye, or the one seed. So I was keeping up with that while that season was going on. I just love, having a regular season of 12 people. Everyone does a round robin. It's just is yeah, it's really kind of unique the way the records all work together. So I had a lot of fun with that. So yeah, that'd be my favorite tournament. Favorite player would be myself.
Okay,
No,
how about we say excluding yourself?
I mean it's got to be Yato. Um, we are. I mean, Yato was one of the few people who did some of the earlier tournaments that's still been pretty active, and he was terrible in those tournaments. Um, and I mean, it was a very slow rise for Yato at first. I think we've seen a lot of players like Peaches, um, recently Claire, like just within the first or second tournament they did, just like they had a lot of speed, or they worked a lot to improve their speed, and they kind of naturally got the routing, so they improve really fast. And that just like wasn't the case with Yato. It was like he did the row control tournament, he did the regular lock, I think he did the lockout tournament, and he did season one of Bingo League, and just like kind of just wasn't getting much better. I remember you know, I did a scrim with him, and just kind of talked to him like afterwards for 20 minutes of like, here are some of the things. He just would basically do deep Bianco into deep gelato every single time.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, just it eventually just something clicked, and he just then started to even then it wasn't like a super rapid improvement. It was just steady growth, slowly getting faster. I think he went from like a 137 to like a 122 in any percent, but also just like got more and more solid routing. um, and then obviously he had, I feel like it culminated in the big upset over JJ. um, and I feel like it's kind of plateaued from then, which is also just kind of the nature of not being sub 120 speed wise. But Yato, I feel like, has had the most unique journey up, where it's just like, usually I feel like every player, like they kind of hit their plateau at some point. Like they have a steady rise as they take it seriously, and then they kind of hit a plateau, and then it's like a much more slow growth from there. But Yato, just see like if he like plateaued at the start and then came up, and then has since plateaued. But yeah, I think has got the most interesting bingo trajectory.
A little
Um,
tortoise in the hair.
and then favorite formats. Um, I would say row control. I think the way I consider row control, I know like PK doesn't necessarily agree with this idea, but I feel like in row control there's no middle game. Um, I think you go straight from early game to win conditions in row control, which I think is really it's really fascinating, because like really it is like when you're by the time you're at pinna, like you should have an idea of how you're like you need to have a win condition of what you can go for. And so I think it is much more about just I think it's more about reading what your opponent is doing than any other format, and that's always kind of the thing that's most interesting to me, is can I guess what my opponent is doing?
Yeah.
Because like there's so much in row control of like man, I'm up 2 goals in this row, but I can leave it up for grabs, and so the other person comes through and steals that row. Um, and Yeah, it's just really fascinating and fun, especially when something works out. Um, and I do got to give a little shout out to Blockout as well, as that's kind of my format that I refined a bit. Um, there had been ideas of a like sort of like block bingo before, but the the complaint, I think it was Ramato, who I don't know if he even remembers, but would complain that it was basically just lockout. And so I was like, all right, how can I make this not just lockout? And so the idea of having a block before you exit the cutscenes is like, one, it's like, okay, every other bingo you're just looking at, for you're spending 6 minutes with a board and you're figuring out what you're doing in those 6 minutes. But in blockout, it's like, okay, there is a change that you don't see coming. How quickly can how does that change your start, or does it?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that's another good format. And also just like regular lockout, I think there's a lot. I mean, I think just the way the bingo goals are aligned, you can get some really good stuff. The What I think of a good route is just like you set stuff up, and then they're just what I would consider the middle game of lockout is just like you get basically 1 goal per shine you do. Like I've had routes where it's just like, I finish, it's like Rico hidden is this shine, the next shine finishes out 4 from 2. The next shine finishes out 3 from 4. The next shine is like finishes out 4 hiddens and 4 gelato shines or something like that. So it's like, man, when you get to that point in a regular lockout, it's the most satisfying feeling in routing. Um, I've had a few matches like that where it's just like across this middle stretch of like 6 shines, I've got like five or 6 goals, just one after the other.
Yeah.
So that can be really fun.
A lot of setup.
Yeah, yeah. When
uh,
setup pays off is very that's the best moment in bingo.
yeah, especially thinking of Dawn of a Dynasty finishing and like, which was really the first tournament. Like I watched the whole thing and getting used to just like going almost 30 minutes before like a first click sometimes, even, or like you get a first click and then it's like, okay, now it's going to be 20 minutes before the next click.
Invasion is interesting. Yeah, it is. Invasion is just there's just only a few goals that matter, and it's just how do you get to those goals, and that is um yeah, for the most part, yeah, I consider invasions like, can you identify what is the most important goal? Is it this goal in row 2 because your opponent has a fantastic base but struggles to get out of row 2, but you have like a slow base, but you can get a quick invade. Can you slow them down? Can you slow their progress while giving yourself time to defend things in your base? Yeah, invasion is it's. I think it is the most different format just because you essentially are playing from you're playing 2 sides of the board, so you have different um,
It's really
different
almost like two
approaches.
different boards. It's
Yeah,
even though it's the same board, it's almost like, it's being played in two completely different ways.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, sure, 4 Pianta shines might be the crucial goal, but it's like you have to get there a different way, and so it's just really a lot about, can you identify the timings and figure out how to get there in time. And it's not definitely not my best format, but um, it is. I do think it is one that um, there was a lot of talk of it just being whoever's faster wins, and I think there's definitely ways to work around that, especially if you can. One of the things about the Dawn of the Dynasty with the vetted cards is that because the boards were so balanced, like it, I honestly think that was a decent advantage for the speed players in a lot of situations, because I think the goal was to avoid cards where the fastest person just wins by getting an easily best side. But um, I think, there's a lot of times where there's an obvious option. So the faster player just kind of has to do that. And so there's decent counterplay around that. And then there's also times where the faster player just chooses wrong. They don't realize how slow that second row is going to be. And so I think there's kind of more potential for upsets when, especially from like a slower player, when the cards aren't vetted and you could just end up with something, unexpected, with the vetted cards, you also know that like every side is viable. So that there's, you know, a right answer.
Right.
Whereas sometimes in a random card, you might just, there's you might just pick a side that can't win.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the last thing I wanted to ask was if you had any advice to give your younger self when you were just starting out in bingo, what would you tell your younger self?
I'd tell my younger self to use his free time to get faster at the game. uh, yeah, I don't have the time to get to JJ level speeds anymore, and I did have. I think I could have found the time if I had committed to it, but and nice thing about bingo is like, it is different every time, and you can still compete. One of my approaches to every game is like, this route have a chance to win me the game? And a lot of times against faster players, or once I have to make those mid game decisions, it comes down to like, okay, if my opponent does this exact specific set of moves, um, follows me here, delays this, then I can win. It's like I still will go for that because I'm like, no matter what, I believe I can find a winning move. Obviously you don't want to get to the point where your only winning move is, does my opponent make a mistake? But sometimes you got to go for that. It's better to go for that than to just give in and just go for a goal just so it looks more respectable. So
Right.
um yeah, one of the things, obviously it would be great if I had more speed, but it is just still nice um to just go and play bingos sometimes with little practice, just haven't touched the game, let me just I can still pull out a bingo and use safer movement. So
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. Hope you had fun. I certainly did.
yeah, yeah, and I definitely feel like I probably talked a lot, but
That was
you
the
know
goal.
whatever the question was is just kind of go off on my own thing, but
Yeah, no, I thought that
that's
would be
what it is.
I thought that'd be the best way to let people just, just see what we want to talk about.
Yeah, I definitely can. When I talk about the things I enjoy, I can keep talking about them. I definitely can talk to people who do not understand anything about Super Mario Sunshine. I can talk to them about bingo for far too long. So to
Exactly.
talk about someone who does know what's going on is nice.
Hey, you're giving me a little too much credit there. I would say I'm halfway between not knowing and knowing.
You're getting there.
Uh,
You've made your own bingos, so
yeah, exactly. That's my success story. All right. Well, thank you again.
yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.